You have heard this story your entire life. A giant named Goliath, a boy named David, one stone, one sling, giant falls, boy becomes king. You think you know this story, but what if everything you were taught was only the surface? What if Goliath was not just a big man with a bad attitude? What if his bloodline traced back to the most terrifying beings to ever walk this earth? What if David knew exactly what he was really fighting, and it had nothing to do with national pride or personal bravery? What if this was never just a battle between two men? Stay with me, because once you see who Goliath really was, you will never read this story the same way again. Let us start with the basics, because most people have no real concept of how big Goliath actually was. The Bible records his height as 6 cubits in a span. That is approximately 9 feet 9 inches tall. Let that sink in. Nearly 10 feet of human being. But his size was not just his height. The Bible gives us the full picture. His armor alone weighed 125 pounds. The coat of mail, the bronze helmet, the leg armor, the javelin across his back, his spear tip alone, just the iron point at the end of his spear, weighed 15 pounds. For context, most soldiers in that era carried weapons that weighed 2 to 3 pounds total. Goliath's spear tip alone weighed 5 times that. He had a shield bearer who walked before him, a dedicated soldier whose only job was to carry Goliath's shield. The Bible says when the Israelite soldiers saw Goliath, they ran from him in great fear, not just nervousness, not just hesitation, great fear, experienced soldiers, battle-hardened warriors, running. For 40 days straight, Goliath came out morning and evening and shouted his challenge. And for 40 days, not one man in Israel had the courage to face him, until a teenage boy came to deliver lunch to his brothers. Now here is what they never taught you in Sunday school. Goliath was not just a big man. Goliath was a Rephaim. The Rephaim were a race of giants mentioned multiple times throughout the Old Testament. Giants so massive and so feared that entire military campaigns were launched just to eliminate them. But where did the Rephaim come from? Trace the bloodline back far enough and you arrive at the Nephilim, the hybrid offspring of the fallen watcher angels who came down to earth and had children with human women. Genesis 6 verse 4. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. Also afterward. Those two words are critical. The Nephilim did not all die in the flood. Some survived. Their bloodline continued, evolved into different tribes. The Anakim, the Emim, the Zamzumim, the Rephaim. All giant races, all descended from that original corruption. And Goliath, this 9'10" warrior from the city of Gath, was one of them. The Bible even tells us Goliath had brothers, giant brothers, also warriors, also Rephaim. 2 Samuel 21 lists them. Ishbi-Benob, Saph, a nameless giant with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. These were not random big men. This was a family, a bloodline, a remnant of the most dangerous beings to ever walk the earth, and Goliath was their champion. Now watch David's response, because it reveals everything. When David arrived at the battlefield and heard Goliath's challenge, the Bible says he asked a question that shocked his brothers. He didn't ask, "How big is he?" He didn't ask, "What weapons does he have?" He asked, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" David immediately identified what this battle was really about. Not territory, not national pride, not personal glory. This was a spiritual confrontation. God's people versus a descendant of the corrupted bloodline, the seed of angels who defied God's order, standing against the army of the God they defied. David understood something every soldier in Israel had missed. Goliath was not just their enemy. Goliath was God's enemy. And that changed everything. When King Saul tried to put his armor on David, David took it off, not because it was too big, but because David was not fighting this battle in the natural realm. He went to the stream. He chose 5 smooth stones. Why 5? Bible scholars point to 2 Samuel 21. Goliath had 4 brothers, 4 giant brothers. David picked 1 stone for Goliath and 1 for each of his brothers. This teenager was not hoping to get lucky. He was prepared for every giant on that field. Then David ran toward Goliath, not walked, ran, toward a 9'10" supernatural warrior covered in 125 pounds of armor. And as he ran, he shouted, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands." One stone, one sling, one throw, and the giant who had terrified an entire nation for 40 days fell face down on the ground. Here is the detail almost nobody talks about. The stone hit Goliath in the forehead. He fell face down. The Bible is very specific, face down. In the ancient world, falling face down was the position of worship, the position of submission, the position of defeat before a greater power. The giant who defied God ended up face down before him, but David was not finished. He had no sword of his own. So he ran to Goliath, drew Goliath's own sword from its sheath, and cut off his head with it, destroyed by his own weapon, defeated by his own sword. And then David carried Goliath's head to Jerusalem, the city that would later become the capital of his kingdom, the city where the cross would one day stand. A giant's head carried into the city of God's future throne. Every detail of this story is dripping with meaning. Here is what Goliath's story means for your life today. Every person watching this has a Goliath, something that has been standing in front of you, morning and evening, shouting your name, reminding you of your size, reminding you of your limitations, reminding you of every reason you cannot win. Your Goliath might be a sickness, a debt, a broken relationship, a past that won't stop following you, a fear so big it has paralyzed you for 40 days or 40 years. But here is what David knew that changed everything. The size of your giant does not matter when you know the size of your God. David did not see a 9-foot giant. He saw an uncircumcised Philistine standing against the living God. Change how you see your giant, and you will change how you fight. You are not fighting alone. You never were. Run toward it. Drop a comment you have a giant you are facing right now. Subscribe more hidden Bible truths they never taught you in church. Next video, David's mighty men, the most feared warriors God ever assembled. Their stories will blow your mind.